I Wasn't Careful Enough on the Deep Web by Packathon John 4. The Deep Web is one of the most amazing things on Earth, not because of how joyful it makes people feel or anything, but because it's a completely uncensored view of the world. I mean, you can speak your mind, buy whatever you want, do anything you want. When on the Deep Web, you have complete and total freedom. I'd always been fascinated by the Deep Web, and at the time of the events in the story, I was in college. Lots of people on my campus had been getting into the Deep Web. It was almost like a trend. So, with so many people getting on it, it seemed perfectly safe for me to, give it a try. Now, I had always heard the stories of the Deep Web, the horror ones, stories of hacking, stumbling on disgusting sites, and even people somehow finding your address. These stories were what mainly kept me off of the Deep Web. But with most of the people at my college doing it on a normal basis, I decided to give it a go. I asked a friend to come over and help me set it up. When my friend arrived, we opened up my laptop and set everything up. He told me that we would be using a Tor, a program that lets you access the Deep Web. He also asked me if I planned on doing anything illegal, to which I replied, no. He said that since I wasn't, I wouldn't need to install Tails, which is apparently a software that makes it more secure if you plan on doing illegal things. A little while later, everything was set up. I had my new IP address, and my friend gave me a brief rundown on what to do and what not to do. He made it very clear that when I was using the hidden wiki, that I had to keep it on censored mode, so then I would be less likely to see something I didn't want to see. After about 2 weeks of using the Deep Web, I felt like a pro. I had accessed many different sites, spoken with some great people, made friends. I even bought some weed. I became cocky and I thought I was ready to dig deeper into the dark web. I turned off the censored mode on the hidden wiki and began to browse through the links. It took a while, mostly because Tor is a slow browser, but many of the links just led to dead web pages. Eventually, I stumbled onto a site called All the Gore. It was mainly a big chat room with many different topics. I had a fairly strong stomach, and I had seen many violent movies, beheadings, killings, etc., all on the normal internet. After looking at a few different chat rooms, I noticed how sick this site really was. People in the chat were actual killers, bragging about some of the things they had done. In the chat room, they would also post pictures. One guy by the name of Culture45 had the stage in one of the rooms. He was explaining in detail how he had broken into someone's house, kidnapped a little girl, and killed her parents by hiding under their bed and then opening their throats at night. He then explained how he brought this little girl back to his house, raped her, beat her, and cut her up. I didn't even think that he was telling the truth at first, but then he posted the pictures. They were the most horrifying pictures I had ever seen. Close-ups of this poor 8-year-old girl getting raped and beaten and cut with a knife. Culture kept posting the pictures. New ones were of the girl being tied to a chair, bleeding, crying, throwing up, etc. Then he showed a picture of him with a drill, drilling into her skull. The most haunting part about this was, while he was doing it, he was looking at the camera, with a look of sheer joy on his face. I had seen enough, and I typed into the chat room window, "You people are sick and deserve to die. How can you sleep at night?" Immediately, people began making fun of me, saying that I was just a helpless and arrogant little girl just as the one in the picture, and that I should get off of the big boy part of the internet. And then they began saying I was a pussy and calling me an empath. That's when Culture typed something into the chat. He said, "Really? Where do you live, buddy? I'm sure everyone would love to see you on this site." I then made the biggest mistake of my life, and I typed, "I'm calling the police, and I'm having this site shut down." Less than a minute later, everything on the site went black, and a new chat box appeared in green. In it, someone named Admin1 typed in the box. He said, "Call the cops and you'll regret it." I didn't type anything in the box, but I reached for my cell phone, and what happened next haunts me, even to this day. My phone said it had a new message. I opened it and it said, "Call the police and you're dead." There was no number. It didn't even say number unknown, it was just blank. I looked back at my laptop and saw that my webcam light had turned on. I quickly covered it, but I saw on the screen, it was a picture of me, looking at my phone. I got wide-eyed and froze for a moment. When the admin typed again, "Put the phone down now and uncover your webcam." I put the phone down, but kept the cover on the webcam. He typed it again. He said, "Okay, be like that." Right after that, he posted my full name, age, and address in the chat and then typed, "It would be a shame if you and your college buddies went missing, wouldn't it?" He said, then I did as he said. I uncovered my webcam. He told me to follow his instructions and how to make it impossible for me to reach the site again. I followed each and every single one. When I finished, I got a text that said, "Now don't ever try and come back." Same as before, it had no number. I still called the police from my friend's phone, but they weren't even able to find the site. If you ever go on the deep web, don't just mindlessly explore, especially if you don't have any additional software to keep you safe. I was a stupid college kid. I just hope that nobody makes the same mistakes that I made. I moved to a different home, changed all my information, but I still get nightmares about it to this day. Part 2. This happened a few days after my original story about the deep web. I was extremely rattled by everything that had happened. The police tried to track down the website, but since there was no way for them to recover my history, and I had originally found the site by just randomly clicking links, it seemed pretty hopeless to find. The police told me to change all of my information about myself, and that I should move in with a friend. After changing pretty much everything, I decided to move in with my friend, David. Now, David was an extremely honest and hardworking person. He never went to parties, he never slacked off, he never got high, he never got drunk. He was very dedicated to finishing college. In fact, he was one of the few kids that I knew that wasn't going on the deep web regularly. I told him all about my experience with the deep web, and that's why he mostly agreed to let me stay with him. One night we were both up studying, pretty late. My phone went off. I looked to see who had texted me, and I saw that it was the same person sending me the messages before. No number. Just like the last time, it read, "Check your computer." There was nothing else to it. One simple instruction. I opened up my laptop, and when I did, I noticed that I didn't have control of the mouse. I tried to move it, but the mouse just moved on its own. Someone had gotten remote access to my computer somehow. I never gave anyone remote access before. I tried a whole bunch of different keyboard commands, but not a single one would work. I noticed that whoever had control of my laptop was downloading a software. Most likely malware, but there was nothing I could do about it. I heard my phone go off again, and this time the message said, "Look out your window." Well, I was sitting right by the window. I didn't know which window the guy was referring to, so I looked out the one I was sitting next to. I saw a man in the parking lot leaned up against a white van. He had his phone in his hand, and when I looked at him, he nodded. My phone went off again. Hold down Shift, Alt, and F5 at the same time to activate the software. I called David into my room to show him what was going on. He seemed just as nervous as I was. But with the man outside the window, we didn't want to anger him. David called the police right away, and they told me that they would be there soon. I didn't activate the software, and we just kind of sat there. Eventually, I got another text. "I'm coming in if you don't do it right now." I didn't know why he or the person in control of my computer couldn't do it, but I didn't dare ask. At the same time, I was 99% sure that this program had malware or spyware or something that would be pretty harmful to my computer, so I refused to activate it. David grabbed the baseball bat just in case the man outside tried to come in. About 5 minutes later, we heard the doorknob jiggling. It was locked, but then we heard banging at the door. We both freaked out and I looked out the window again. Sure enough, the man and the van were gone. The banging on the door got more and more violent, until eventually, we heard this horrible scratching noise that only lasted for a few moments. And then we heard the footsteps walk down the hall and eventually fade away. I received another text. "We'll be back." That really got to me. When the cops arrived, they told me to go look at my door. I followed them back out into the hallway, and engraved into the door was my name. The police began investigating the whole building, and they even had a tech police officer come in and look at my computer. He began to do scans and investigate some of the weird software that was on my laptop. Eventually, he managed to close and remove it, and he told me that my laptop wasn't safe. He said the core files of it had been hacked into or corrupted. We did a complete wipe of my laptop, and he did look at my phone as well. Just like last time, he couldn't even tell where the messages came from. And he told me that they would be sure to keep some cops nearby, just in case this happened again. The next day, I had just gotten home from school and I was really tired. David wasn't home yet, so I went into my room and fell into the bed. Just as I had begun to close my eyes, I heard a rattling sound from the inside of my closet. I lifted my head up and didn't really hear it again, so I fell asleep. After a few minutes, the closet door swung open. I leaped out of bed and saw a man with a mask walking towards me. I ran for the door and slammed it behind me. I ran out to the parking lot, started my car, and drove away as fast as I could. By the time the police arrived, the man was, of course, gone. The apartment, pretty surprisingly, hadn't been wrecked or anything. We didn't even find anything missing. He didn't seem to do anything at first. That night, 2 police officers were monitoring everyone who came in and out of the building, just as an attempt to try to catch the man. I opened my laptop and I noticed that my wallpaper had been changed. It wasn't just a bunch of trees as it usually was, but it had been changed into a sickening photo of a man in a mask. It was the same mask as the man who was in my closet wore, digging a knife into a baby's eye in what looked like a relatively small cabin. I hadn't noticed all of my applications and programs were gone, and when I saw the same software as last time, right in the middle, I clicked on it. It had already been installed, just like last time. It filled the entire screen, and what looked like a live stream was going on. I couldn't even exit out of it. The live stream was coming from a boy's house. He looked to be about 13 or 14, and was at his computer. It didn't take long for me to realize that I was watching this through his webcam, and he had no idea. I saw a small chat box pop up right in the top right of the screen, and in it, someone typed, "Welcome to our live stream. We're glad everyone could be here. Thank you, John, for being here as well." My eyes got very wide. My name was John. They were waiting for me to start the stream. They were waiting till I got here to start the show. As I watched, the closet behind the poor boy slowly opened. A man walked out with a toolbox in one hand. He quietly set the toolbox down and pulled out some duct tape. He went behind the kid. He put the tape over his mouth and grabbed him tight. The poor kid's face was total fear. He tried to scream, but he couldn't because of the tape. They were making a pretty decent amount of noise, so that told me the kid must have been home alone. Alright, listen. There's some major, not safe for work stuff coming, so proceed with caution. I tried my best to exit out, but I couldn't. Then I saw the man take out a screwdriver. He drove it deep into the kid's chest. blood began to pour out and the kid made a wheezing noise. I saw tears coming from his eyes as this sick fuck began to drive the screwdriver deeper and deeper, and then yanked it out. The man then took out a hammer, and he smashed the kid's hands several times, until they were nothing more than a mangled, bloody mess. I tried every command to exit, but I couldn't, and nothing was working. I noticed that in the chat box, several people were cheering this man on, and requesting him to do all types of different things to this young boy. The man then took out a handheld circular saw. He pressed it against the boy's face and turned it on. The boy screamed with pain as I saw it went up into his eye, causing blood to go everywhere, even get on the camera as well. I even started to get tears in my eyes seeing as I couldn't do anything. Then the man took out a screwdriver and gouged out what was left of the kid's eyes. Then he took out a pretty large knife and he cut the boy's throat. He then proceeded to just toss the body on the ground. I felt sick. I threw up all over the floor. And when I looked back, I saw in the chat box people were typing things like fap, and oh my god, that was so wonderful, thank you so much for doing this, etc. In the box, the next thing I saw was Culture 405 type into it. Thanks for watching, John. After that, the program closed all on its own, and all I was left with was the sickening wallpaper. I was sweating and breathing heavy. I felt fucking terrible. Throughout the entire thing, I didn't realize that my phone had gone off dozens of times. I looked at it and I saw the most hateful, mean messages coming from my friends and family. I asked my mom what was wrong and she texted me back, "You sent that sick, disturbing video to everyone. I can't believe who you are. The police have been called." I felt even more sick than before. Those monsters had sent the live stream to all of my friends and family somehow, and made it look like it was coming from me. They had pretty much ruined my life, within a couple of minutes. When the police arrived, I told them everything that had happened, and they quickly managed to explain to everyone who got the live stream what had happened. They really cracked down on finding these sick people. A month later, 4 men were arrested. One of them, Culture 405. The other was Admin 1. And the other 2 men were people working for them. The site was found and shut down as well. And I bought a new laptop and phone. Now, I could say some horror cliche here. I could say that I kept getting text or I kept hearing weird noises ever since. But none of that happened. They were arrested, and I never heard anything further. It's really comforting to know that those men are in jail, or perhaps even dead. But what scares me even more is all those people that were watching the live stream. Those who were there for the pleasure. They're still out there. And there's probably 1,000 other Culture 405s all over the world. Listen, if you ever go on the deep web, make sure you're as careful as possible. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the lovely patrons you see on screen right now. Dan R, Paul Z, Cody V, Chaos X, Mr. Swiston, Official Jerboa, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A, Dark Side of the Bear, Daniel H, and Maximilian Charles P. If you want your name read at the end of every video, access to Patreon-only stories, and several other perks, make sure you head on over to Patreon right now and check it out. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and share the video, all that jazz. I really appreciate it.